Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Joel Villafano, and I will be your chairperson for this afternoon's proceedings. Before I go a step further, let me say a warm welcome to the interesting panel that we have before us for this auspicious occasion. Mr. John Reid, President of the Consumer Group of the Cable and Wireless Communication Company. Mr. Steve Stout, the Chairman of CBI and CANOC. Mr. Brian Lewis, President of the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee, executives of the Cable and Wireless Communications Company, board members of CANOC and CBI, and specially invited athletes, specially invited guests, members of the media. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. It would be remiss of me not to mention that we are carrying this press conference live on all regional flow networks in the region, and this is being done courtesy Guile the Caribbean. So a special good afternoon to all sport fans, all sports enthusiasts, not just here in Trinidad and Tobago, but across the region. Those watching in Jamaica, Grenada, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Barbados and Antigua. Welcome. We are happy that you can join us for this memorable occasion in Caribbean sport and also in Caribbean telecommunications and media. Good afternoon as well to the regional media who have joined us and are watching either on television or via Ustream. Thank you for taking the time to tune in for this event and this announcement today. As a Caribbean sport journalist myself, I consider myself to be a sport fan first, and then a sport media professional. As a result, all sport activities in which we as a Caribbean are involved in holds a special place in my heart, and I'm sure it goes the same for you. When you're rooting for your country, you're not just rooting for your individual country. Most times you're rooting for all Caribbean countries at the Olympic Games. Sometimes you're rooting even outside of the Caribbean based on what sporting discipline is on showcase, not so? Yeah. So I know for certain that all of us, regardless of where we live, where we reside, we celebrated Merlene Ottey and Hazley Crawford back in the day. Yeah? More recently, we celebrated Usain Bolt and Kirani James. Those moments remain very, very fixed in our minds. That wasn't just Jamaica's achievement or Trinidad's achievement, Trinidad and Tobago's achievement, or Grenada's achievement. That was us as a region, our achievement. We all yearn for our flag or a Caribbean flag to be raised at the Olympic Games and to hear one of our national anthems played. It is with that passion for Caribbean sport that I am happy to introduce the speakers to you here today, who may not be athletes, though some of them may feel they are, but more importantly, whose work has had and continues to have an impact on sport and its development in the region. A great part of the success of any sport is the ability of its fans to view and support and drive enthusiasm so that the athlete is energized to do even better on the world stage. This afternoon, you'll be hearing from Steve Stout, the chairman of CANOC and CANOC Broadcasting Incorporation, John Reid, president of the Consumer Group of CWC, Brian Lewis, president of the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee, and Cleopatra Burrell, an esteemed Olympic athlete. However, just before we get into the meat of the matter this afternoon, I'd like to give special recognition to the athletes who are here present with us this afternoon. some of whom came in especially for this event. Let's take a moment to recognize our Olympic athletes, and I would like the athletes just to stand to be recognized and acknowledged when I call your name. First of all, from the Bahamas, a quarter miler by the name of Demetrius Pinder. Another quarter miler from the Bahamas, Ramon Fuller. From Barbados, young Fallon Ford. I'm not seeing Andrew Lewis, am I? Is he here? He is here, hiding in the back. Andrew Lewis, ladies and gentlemen. Sailor here in Trinidad and Tobago, represented TNT. Jehu Gordon, track and field hurdler from Trinidad and Tobago. And Hazley Crawford, 1976, fastest man over 100 meters. Is Mr. Crawford here? Not just yet. Not just yet. He's a little slow today, isn't he? All right, we hope to have his presence a little later on this afternoon. Cleopatra Burrell, who is a member of our panel this evening, dynamic shot putter here in TNT. To all the athletes, welcome, and thank you very much for being here as part of this auspicious occasion. At this time, I'd like to introduce our first speaker, Steve Stout, who is the chairman of the CANOC and the CBI. CBI is a subsidiary of CANOC, the Caribbean Association of National Olympic Committees, which acts as an umbrella body for all Olympic committees around the region. CBI was set up to manage the broadcast rights of at a regional level for the Olympics and other related IOC tournaments. Ladies and gentlemen, enough from me. Let's now hear from Mr. Steve Stout.
Thank you very much, Master of Ceremonies. Mr. John Reed, President of the Columbus Consumer Group, and other executives from the Columbus Consumer Group, Mr. Brian Lewis, President of the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee, Mr. Larry Romani, CEO of the Caribbean Broadcasting Inc., and other directors of CBI, members of the CANOC Executive Board present, the top athletes who have come from around the Caribbean to be with us, specially invited guests, other colleagues in sport. On behalf of the Caribbean Association of National Olympic Committees and the CANOC Broadcasting Inc., it is a pleasure and a privilege to welcome you to what is a historic occasion in the history of the Caribbean Olympic movement. Today we announce that CWC is the exclusive telecommunications partner of CANOC and CANOC Broadcasting Inc. They are CANOC's first major broadcast sponsor and our exclusive mobile broadcaster for 2016. Indeed, CWC will also be the first regional telecommunications partner to broadcast the Olympic Games on mobile devices. What this means is that each CANOC member will get the opportunity to partner with CWC if they so desire. Since my involvement in the Olympic movement nearly a half-century ago, first games was Mexico in '68. I said my brother brought me in a pram. We've had to piggyback on external broadcasters, providing coverage predominantly for their own country's athletes. How often have we waited in front of our television sets to see our team march into the stadium during the opening ceremony, only to be confronted with an advertisement? Now, for the first time, we will have dedicated Caribbean service with dedicated media personnel, as this partnership will allow CANOC to bring the games to the Caribbean audiences on cutting-edge technology. I would also like to add that the advantages available to CANOC on having a pan-regional sponsor are limitless, and by extension, our National Olympic Committees and our Commonwealth Games Associations can reap tremendous benefits by integrating CWC's technology systems and extensive CSR programs with their own. To conclude, ladies and gentlemen, I must again stress that owning the broadcast rights are not only of a tremendous benefit to regional NOCs if they're prepared to seek the advantages thereof. All in all, today's event signaled a new era within the Caribbean Olympic movement. I'm delighted to be part of this and would like to congratulate Mr. Larry Romani, CEO of CBI, for his team, for the foresight and determination in making this a reality. I thank you for listening and have a pleasant afternoon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Stout. What a start. At this time, I would like to remind all media attending via web stream to email your questions to address the panel, provided that you will be with us for the question and answer period. So all media, you can email your questions and we will deal with them during the question and answer period. I'd like now to invite Mr. John Reed, who is the president of the consumer group for the Cable and Wireless Communications Company, to speak with us. Mr. Reed, I understand, is not a stranger to the Caribbean. He lived in Trinidad for just about 7 years as the managing director of Flow Trinidad. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Reed.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everyone. Well, it certainly has been a hectic several months for CWC and some of us individually. As a matter of fact, I think the ink is still not dry on my new business cards. That's the first time I've been introduced in this capacity, so it takes a little time to get used to not being introduced as being part of the Columbus family. But today I am certainly proud to be here on behalf of the new combined company of CWC and Columbus as we launch this exciting partnership with Canuck Broadcasting. And I mentioned to Larry before we came in that we had this discussion perhaps about 18 months ago initially, and Bernard Stewart, an old friend from ESPN who's here as well. And that little merger got in the way of our discussions and moved the things a little more slowly than we would have liked. But we are here, and I'm probably as delighted as anyone in this room to have to be standing here today and to be addressing all of you. As Steve indicated, CBI has named CWC as the official broadcast sponsor, and the exclusive telecom partner of the 2016 Rio Olympics for the Pan-Caribbean region. Steve spoke about his vision to transform how we experience the Olympics in the Caribbean. What makes this partnership so profound is that together we will achieve this vision by utilizing the strengths of both CBI and CWC. Instead of taking a traditional linear approach to broadcasting, which limits our customers' viewing choices, CWC will adopt a multi-platform approach to transmitting a wide variety of content. For our customers, this experience will be nothing short of spectacular. They will have access to a unique variety of live video feeds offered across a number of media platforms, including radio, ESPN's live television coverage, video on demand, as well as mobile and internet streams, all of which can be accessed from each customer's preferred device. The best part is that we will do so at no additional cost to our customers. I want to emphasize the viewing options, as it is the additional exclusive unparalleled content offering that truly highlights the significance of our partnership with CBI. From historical features to contemporary stories, our customers will have more than 12 hours each day of an extra Olympic programming. Much of this content is going to focus on our local and regional athletes because we want to showcase material that is relevant to our customers. Indeed, we're proud to enable our viewers to see their hometown heroes in real time and not just on a highlight reel. It is precisely because of all these benefits that I believe this partnership is the most practical way for us to demonstrate to our customers and indeed to the region as a whole the value of our recent merger. More than that, it sets a precedent for future sports programming in the region and builds upon CWC's other social initiatives that provide grassroots support for Caribbean athletes. from boys and girls champs in Jamaica to community cricket, support for athletics, rugby, football, and swimming, this partnership is simply the natural next step for our company to take to support local and regional sports. Right here in Trinidad, one such initiative that we are committing to support is a 10 or more Olympic gold medals by year 2024 Athlete Welfare and Preparation Fund, which seeks to raise funds to support athletes to train for the 2024 Olympics with the goal to win 10 gold medals. Started by the president of the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee, the goal is to provide financial assistance for the country's Olympic, Paralympic, and Commonwealth Games athletes, as they not only prepare for their respective competitions, but as they also prepare for life after the Games. While we've already made a donation to this important initiative, we want to deepen our involvement and will look actively for other similar opportunities to nurture and develop our region's youth and talent. And folks, there's a lot of it. Consider this interesting statistic. While the Caribbean represents less than 0.5% of the world's population, it actually won over 4.5% of the total number of medals awarded at the 2012 Olympic Games. That means our region is succeeding 7 times above its weight class at the Olympics. So just imagine how much more we could achieve with a renewed effort to assist these elite athletes. It is this kind of contribution that CWC is constantly trying to make to the communities we serve. Even as we do so, however, it is important to make the entire region a part of the process. It is important to ensure that everyone has an opportunity to see and support their heroes as they compete in this significant international competition. Sports are such an important and defining part of our culture, especially those as rich as the ones found here in the Caribbean. Before I hand the mic over to Brian, I'd like to say again how proud we are to have this opportunity to bring a more enhanced Olympic experience to our region, one that will allow people to connect in a more easier and more meaningful way. It is truly a privilege to be part of this partnership with CBI and CANOC. The journey to Rio has just started. Join us as we showcase Caribbean talent
We've
to the
lived
world.
through the trials, the triumphs, the tears, and the cheers, the moments that drew us closer to our national colors. In 2016, it gets even bigger. Our connection to the passion will be stronger. Sharing the excitement will be simpler. Access to the action will be easier. We will do more than live in the moment. We will live history.
That should have gotten us a bit excited as 2016 beckons. Thank you, Mr. Reid. Now we'll hear from Brian Lewis, who is the president of the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee, an athlete, or a former athlete. Now a passionate sporting administrator here in Trinidad and Tobago. Mr. Lewis brings many years of experience and insight every time he speaks. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Brian Lewis.
Ladies and gentlemen, right here, this is a game changer. This is a landmark occasion, the culmination of 18 years of commitment, dedication, and vision. Right here, right now, what you're going to be hearing announced and what has been announced here is going to make a difference to sport and the Olympic movement in Trinidad and Tobago that is unprecedented. Mr. John Reid, President of the Consumer Group of Cable and Wireless Communications, regional and local executives of Cable and Wireless Communications, Mr. Brian Collins, Managing Director of Columbus, Trinidad, Mr. Larry Romani, Chief Executive Officer of the CANOC Broadcast Incorporated, Caribbean athletes represented today by Barbados, the Bahamas, and Trinidad and Tobago. Executive members of the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee and other Caribbean National Olympic Committees, leaders of the various sporting organizations in Trinidad and Tobago, viewers, members of the media. Let me say a special welcome to a very good friend of mine. He's the director of the Cannock Broadcast Incorporated, a former president of the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee, Douglas Camacho. And Douglas is someone who I have very fond memories because he brought me into the Olympic movement 17 years ago with a mandate to be the difference that I want to see. Other distinguished ladies and gentlemen, today's announcement of Cable and Wireless Communications as the official telecommunications partner in the Caribbean for the Olympic Games in Rio 2016 represents an important step for the Olympic movement in the Caribbean. The advent of integrated communications across the globe means athletes and supporters alike are living in a world of immediate access to content on any platform of their choosing. The Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee is therefore encouraged to witness this partnership, even as the Cannock Broadcast Incorporated approaches the corporate sector at every level to enter into meaningful partnerships on behalf of national Olympic committees to support the Caribbean's participation in the Rio 2016 Olympic Games. At the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee, we are in the gold medal winning business. Our executive, stakeholders, and staff live and breathe athlete welfare and preparation in their quest for excellence every single day. This may seem a straightforward strategy, but for the athletes in Trinidad and Tobago and the Caribbean, each day brings with it challenges along their path to success, perhaps not dissimilar to those in the corporate sector and the commercial marketplace. These challenges test us all in the Olympic movement. It motivates us and takes us well beyond our imaginable capacity. What the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee is striving for is to cultivate a system of excellence that clarifies the development pathway and performance management system that holistically fosters, mentors, nurtures, and develops Olympians and Olympic champions and world champions on a sustainable and consistent basis. Training to be an Olympic champion is a full-time commitment that demands both discipline and dedication to maintaining competitiveness and to win medals. Elite and high-performance athletes competing in individual and team sports must dedicate themselves, time, money, and energy to their athletic endeavors. By adopting a new mindset, the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee targets the big goal and the big dream of 10 or more Olympic gold medals by the year 2024. But establishing a change in culture, whether in Trinidad and Tobago or any other Caribbean country, demands breaking down new barriers with new and innovative approaches. We, all of us, in Cannock and the individual National Olympic Committees must synthesize the Caribbean region as a whole and in our individual nations about the reality that exists among our national athletes. And we must show that each Caribbean country and the region as a collective are fully supporting our athletes on their journey to fulfilling the Olympic dream, regardless of the color of the flag. today's formal announcement brings cable and wireless communications front and center into the most prestigious global sporting event for the year ahead. Moreover, I am encouraged by Cable and Wireless Communications' stated intention to partner with the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee and to support our individual achievement and goals and objectives of 10 or more Olympic gold medals by the year 2024. The Olympic Games represents the moment of truth for sport in its many disciplines. The Caribbean athletes have for many years proven that as individuals and as a team and as a collective, that we can compete and win against the best that the world can produce. As the execution arm of KNOC on this particular project, the Caribbean Canuck Broadcast Incorporated's role in seeking to monetize and fully exploit the broadcast rights associated with these games represents a paradigm shift. And that is a paradigm shift where the KNOC and the Caribbean National Olympic Committees have taken a collective decision to place our athletes at the center of what we do. As I said earlier, it has been an 18-year journey to this moment. This is testimony that the power of the Olympic Games and sport indeed can unite the region, as evidenced by the coming together of KNOC and the formulation of the CBI Limited. The steps taken here today by Cable and Wireless Communication and CBI Limited are meant to place our athletes at the heart of every commercial opportunity arising from these games. And I encourage everyone to see these commercial transactions in that light, as being about our athletes, the youth of the Caribbean, and the communities in which they come from. We are collectively accepting responsibility for ensuring that the sporting talent of the Caribbean is given the best care and attention, and to enhance their readiness, as well as to showcase them on the world stage in order to bring pride and joy to every single person of Caribbean ancestry. In closing, on behalf of the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee, a proud member of the Caribbean Association of National Olympic Committee, and a proud and committed shareholder of the KNOC Broadcast Incorporated Limited, I congratulate Cable and Wireless Communications on their selection and appointment as official telecommunication partner for the 2016 Olympic Games in Rio. The Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee looks forward to sitting with the Cable and Wireless Communication to determine and explore all opportunities to achieve our individual goals and to afford our athletes the best opportunity to achieve goals. However, today is about our united stand as a Caribbean Olympic movement. Notwithstanding our differences, notwithstanding our challenges and our deep disappointment, we stand committed on behalf of our athletes and the youth of the Caribbean nation. I therefore take this opportunity to call on all members of KNOC to get down to the task at hand, working closely together and investing in the development of our athletes while affording Cable and Wireless Communications and CBI Limited the opportunity to showcase them to foster deep feelings of pride and joy for the people of the Caribbean. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. You know, when Mr. Brian Lewis outlined that mandate a couple of years ago, 10 medals by 2014. I really thought it was 10 medals. And I said, okay, nice, 10 medals for Trinidad and Tobago by the year 2024. Then it hit me that he was speaking about gold medals. I said, well, Mr. Lewis is a madman. But that is the mandate and that is the challenge to national athletes here in Trinidad and Tobago. And I'm sure many across the region would accept that challenge and join Trinidad and Tobago in that challenge. J.Hugh Gordon and Andrew Lewis is present here. And my next speaker, that challenge goes out to her as well, as she's very much still on the Olympic stage. 3 Olympics behind her. I'm speaking of Cleopatra Burrell. She is one of Trinidad and Tobago's talented shot putters over the years, who represented the country in the 3 Olympic Games. She is the 2014 TTOC Sportswoman of the Year. Ms. Burrell will talk on the impact and speak on the impact of this partnership from the perspective of the athlete. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed Olympic athlete Cleopatra Burrell.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for having me and allowing me to give the athlete's perspective on what it means to know that our Olympic dreams, our Olympic performances will be covered, and to know that our home crowds will be able to see us perform in Rio 2016. As an athlete, the Olympics are oftentimes the pinnacle of our careers. I'm sure that many of the athletes here today will agree that the Olympic Games are everything for us. And as Caribbean athletes, we know that in the past, we haven't been covered as well as we believe we should have been. And knowing now that our individual islands and the entire Caribbean region, because we all cheer for each other, we support each other as a group of Caribbean athletes, we are beyond words. The athletes, I'm sure, we're thrilled, and it has made our preparations going into Rio 2016 that much sweeter, knowing that our families, our friends, our well-wishers, and most importantly, future generations of Caribbean athletes will see and experience the Olympic experience live in real time on so many different devices. So thank you so much for showcasing our hard work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cleopatra. I want to thank everyone on behalf of all the sporting disciplines, all the athletes who work hard, play hard to make us all proud here in the region. This is a momentous occasion. This is a groundbreaking announcement, ladies and gentlemen, and we are all here to witness it around the region. At this time, I would like to move straight into what sometimes is the most interesting part of the afternoon proceedings, the question and answer, where the media gets the opportunity to address members of the panel, members that you heard speak a short while ago. We would like to, however, focus on the CANOC and CBI partners and the arrangement that is put in place here today. So at this time, we have a couple questions already submitted via email, but we will now open the floor to the media to ask a couple questions to the panel. Just before the media raises their hands and gets themselves excited, I please want to just take this time to recognize the appearance and acknowledge the Senator, the Honorable Minister of Sport, Mr. Brent Sancho. He's just arrived. Welcome, Minister. Mr. Sancho, I never thought I would have been calling you Minister. I just wanted to get that out of the way. Well, welcome and congratulations. Ladies and gentlemen, the media, it's your time now. If it is you have a question for a specific member of the panel, it is your time. If you can just come forward, what I would just like, come forward, and you will identify your media house and your name and which member of the panel that you would like to direct a question. This is your time.
Nasira Mohammed. I'm here from CNMG. We just wanted to know, would there be a bidding process and how would it be handled within Trinidad and Tobago and the region?
Yeah, the intent has always been to give and it still is, to give the television signal to all television stations. And so that there's no bidding to take place. As a matter of fact, the discussions have already been completed. We have already signed an MOU with CBU and with the members, the other free-to-air members across the Caribbean, so that there's no problem. You will be seeing it on free-to-air television and on a number of channels in flow, as well as the mobile devices are really a 40-channel video-on-demand scenario, so that you're going to be able to see the games in a myriad of different ways. And if you, for instance, think about track and field, as somebody who's looking at it on the mobile device, and you understand where the cameras are around the track and field circuit, and they will show you it on the screen, you can just put your finger on that camera, and the entire perspective on the screen changes. So you can split the screen, you can be looking at it down the straight, you can be looking at it from the side, you can be looking at a combination of things. So it's a fantastic way to see the games. The Caribbean will be the first grouping to ever, with the exception of host cities, to ever show all the Olympic streams coming out of the Olympic competition venues. In the past, what you have, if it's NBC, if it's Sky Sports, if it's a BBC, what you have, a television channel showing one sport at a time. What we're doing is we are showing the main events that the Caribbean athletes are in, plus at the same time, 12 other feeds, so that anything that's happening in the Olympic Games, we will get to see it in the Caribbean. And that's a first.
Thank you, Mr. Romani. More questions? All right, let me ask a question that I received from an email online. Is the idea to broadcast the games to the mobile platform via LTE? What sort of data packages will be recommended to customers throughout the region, and what sort of costs would this involve? So I suppose this question really has to do with the fact that we can now view the games on our mobile devices. Is Mr. Reid the one to take that question? And yes, what sort of data packages will be required?
Of course, LTE is only being rolled out in the region as we speak. I know for Cable and Wireless, the first country that will have that service is Turks and Caicos. And so the networks are being constructed, I guess, but that doesn't, I mean, we can use LTE, we can use any other kind of wireless spectrum to deliver the mobile product. In terms of data packages, they have not been established as of yet. Larry described the player, and as a matter of fact, the Olympic video player provides us with the ability to launch 12 additional streams simultaneously on multiple devices. In terms of the data packages themselves, it depends on the stream. It depends on what event we're going to be launching or providing at that particular point in time. But it is our intention, as I indicated initially, to provide the service. No additional cost to our customer base. There will be certain data packages, or certainly the ability to have data packages that are in addition to your monthly subscription that are not an additional cost to your monthly subscription package. But at the same time, for us, the next 12 months or the next 15 months now are really building the capacity to be able to offer this service. And I can tell you from my perspective, being the non-technical one in the room, or certainly in our group, we are just really learning about the capacity or the capability of this particular online content and library that we can offer to our customers. We will provide the information as soon as we sort of get our head around how we're going to deliver it in multiple streams. There will be an opportunity, obviously, for customers to avail of it in multiple countries and multiple devices and at any given point in time. However, specifically in terms of any particular package that are going to be offered, we haven't got that far yet. We're really in the formative stages in terms of this partnership.
Mr. Reid, don't go anywhere yet. Let me squeeze one more question
Yes,
in
sir.
that I think would be applicable to you as well that has come online. Will this service be 24/7 on the mobile devices, or will it be video on demand?
The video on demand content will be available, I guess, 24/7. In terms of the content itself, live content streaming, it'll be 12 additional hours per channel per day. And so we anticipate at this particular point, if you're looking at linear television specifically, we will have between 12 and 15 additional feeds that we will offer in addition to the main feed that Larry talked about, which is available to all the free-to-airs as well as ourselves. And so we'll carry that feed, and we will have the ability through our partnership to offer these 12 additional feeds. And that's where, as Larry described, that's where the opportunity to see all the vantage points from the cameras and all of the different events that we would normally have to see a snippet of, I guess, during the evening news hour.
Mr. Reid, thank you very much. I take it back to the media. Any other questions that you guys, please come forward. This is your time to get the questions out there.
Hi, good afternoon. Gregory McBurney from GISL TV4. Question, to view this on Flow, for those of us who already have Flow television at home, will it be coming across pay-per-view channels, or is it at no additional cost whatsoever?
I'll just stand to the side.
Yeah.
Larry is older and smarter, so he didn't sit down. It will not be additional cost. It will be offered on our platform. It will be offered at video on demand, free video on demand, but the additional fees that we will also provide to you as a Flow customer will be free.
Yes, that was clear.
Thank you. Dennis T. Allen, Metro Magazine sometimes, KVTV sometimes, a lot of other places. But I just wanted to find out, we have a lot of small broadcasters in this country, web bloggers. How are those content producers going to be affected by the fact that we don't have an exclusive like TV6 or whatever broadcaster in this market? So are we going to be allowed to use footage, and what is the process for getting that footage?
The intention is to allow as many people as possible to access the feeds. Given the relationship that we have developed with CWC and Flow and Columbus, there's going to be some specific access that is going to be blocked as a result of their participation. But generally speaking, what would happen is that people who, especially the free-to-air side of the business, people who have that sort of communication, television communication, we would be accessing them directly. If you feel that you have something that you would like to do, something that you would like to get into, I think you need to contact us, and we would have a discussion with CWC, because that's where the whole thing starts. I think that we're open to discussion. As I said at the beginning of this when we bought these rights, we're not into exclusivity. We want to make sure that we maximize viewership across the entire region, and we're going to do as much as we can. So I think that there's opportunity for some discussion, and we can go into it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and just identifying myself, Bridge Parasnath, Caribbean Sports Specialist. Just to say special congratulations to Caribbean Broadcasting Incorporated. Having brought this to the region, we want to congratulate all the Olympic Committee, because we as media professionals, we know how the region feels and the passion they have for the sports. Just for the history, making event, how many countries in total involved in this entire project and part of this is just for the records. Mr. Larry Money probably will bring us up to date.
Yeah.
I'm going to take Joel, please. Okay, we have gotten the exclusive rights for 20 countries, from Bermuda down to Suriname, and the non-exclusive rights for an additional 10. And that non-exclusive rights really is about the French and Dutch-speaking Caribbean. But we have, if you take all the English-speaking Caribbean, it includes all of them. And then that's inclusive of Turks and Caicos, etc. So that's 20, inclusive of Haiti. And then the others would be like Aruba, Bonaire, St. Martin, etc., going thing. But it's quite extensive. It's quite extensive.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Peter C. Lewis from We Sports. Question: from a broadcaster's perspective, would whoever it is doing the broadcast from the source, would we be able to see, and I have to ask it in a technical way, because when you see it from an NBC's perspective, most times, when the athlete comes last or doesn't place first, you still see them focus on that athlete. Would we have or whoever it is putting this thing up on the satellite, would we be able to see the Trinidad athlete, the Jamaican athlete, the whoever athlete from the source, so that even if they don't come first, we still have that opportunity to focus on that athlete, as opposed to a source? I heard John made the point that when we see them in the ceremony, opening ceremony, we only see them for that little space of time and then it's gone to something else. Would we be able to have control of the feed, whoever doing the broadcast, would we have control of the feed from the source so that we could always be on the Caribbean athlete?
Okay, and that's a very good question. Every single athlete that competes for the Caribbean will have FaceTime on ESPN. Every single athlete will have FaceTime. We have hired ESPN to do the production. ESPN will be placing about 65 people in Rio to do our job. We have a tremendous directorship in Bernard Stewart, who started ESPN Caribbean and ESPN Asia. So we know what we want to see. We want to see that before the athlete competes, he's interviewed, just like you see on the BBC and just like you see on NBC. And when the athlete is finished and he's coming in the tunnel, he's interviewed again. That's the level of production we're talking about. And I think every time we say, in some instances, when we say ESPN, people think an American show is going to be on. Well, hear what? This is the highest level of sport professionalism in broadcasting, being hired by the highest level of Caribbean directorship. So that understand, we are going to get the best of every world. From an athlete's perspective and from an Olympic Committee's perspective, we know what we want to see. And ESPN has sat down on the opposite side of the table and told us, we will deliver that. Not we can, we will deliver that. And with Bernard on board, we think that we're well on our way.
At Liberties from I-95.5. I would like to know the plans for radio stations broadcasting, covering the event.
Okay. And that, again, that's a very good question, because radio stations and talk radio is a very important part of the culture of the Caribbean. And we are now developing a model for radio that would be centrally located, that all radio stations would have access to, that would be interactive between what's happening in Rio and a discussion taking place throughout the Caribbean with all the people in the Caribbean wanting to call in and say whatever. But as soon as we have that model complete and it's being formulated by the CBU, and we will then put our thing on it, we will be bringing it to the public for them to understand what it is. But rest assured, we will have talk radio in every single territory in the Caribbean talking about the Olympic Games, not only during the Olympic Games, but leading up to the Games as well.
I want to know, with respect, Caribbean people like to watch it in the bar and by the partner and have an Olympic lime, and previously we weren't allowed to do this. And also, you know, we want to know if you could lime and watch the Olympics. That's what we want to know, publicly.
Well, what I could tell you is subscribe to Flow and you're going to get anywhere in the Caribbean.
But then maybe I should be asking John, would Flow be stopping people from doing things like that?
No. As a matter of fact, we will actually be encouraging people to host like fan parks and so forth, that we could maximize the visual.
That is what we're
games.
talking about.
Yeah.
That is what we're talking about.
You sort of covered most of my questions that I had from online here. So I have one question that I probably, Larry, you may be able to address. Will Cannock be reaching out to regional broadcasters and broadcast companies? You sort of addressed it, but in terms of the regional coverage, are we going to see our regional broadcast faces out there as well, who would know our athletes and our Caribbean athletes well and have a little insight with regards to our Caribbean athletes?
Again, that's a very important question. There were two things that when we signed this arrangement with ESPN that we discussed with them. One was some measure of knowledge transfer on the technical side that would happen in a particular way. And the other way was to find some way of integrating regional talent at Rio. And we must all appreciate that there's a particular veneer when you look at ESPN, if you look at Sports Center, if you look at NBC Sports, there's a particular veneer you look for. And I can tell you that right now, CBI, in conjunction with ESPN, is actively seeking out regional talent to fill those positions. And it's a very important thing because we feel that the broadcast must be of a Caribbean nature, but that must not mean that it is of a mediocre nature. It must be of the highest professional nature, but again, be seen by Caribbean people as a Caribbean broadcast. So yes, we are looking at that.
Questions coming from online. Before I get to this one, there's one here, Larry. How long will the agreement with the Olympic Committee on broadcast rights run for? And are there plans for the Canuck Broadcasting to partner with other sporting federations such as FIBA or FIFA and the likes to provide similar coverage on international competitions?
With these questions alone, I could write the company's mandate. I mean, the CBI was really formed to capture all sporting rights and to partner with broadcast partners. And when I say capture all sporting rights, it's important for us to understand as people, as administrators and athletes involved in sport, when we sit down to watch sport on television, we continually see sport that we are not interested in. And there's a lot of sport in the Caribbean that we have a lot of interest in. And in the Olympic movement specifically, we talk about the CAC Games, the Pan Am Games, the Commonwealth Games, the Olympic Games. The Olympic Games has Winter Olympics and Youth Olympics. Commonwealth has Youth Commonwealth as well. You have the FINA, you have FINA National World Championships, you have UCI Cycling World Championships, you have rugby, you have a host of broadcast content that is very, very interesting to all of the people in the Caribbean. And Canuck, as part of its mandate, is ready to go out and seek those things. I don't think I'm speaking out of turn here when I say that we have already won the rights for the Pan Am Games, so that you're going to be seeing the Pan Am Games in a very similar way. The people that have the rights for Pan Am, or the broadcasters, the overriding broadcaster, they are not yet as technology ready as the IOC is in terms of driving it off of mobile devices. But the fact is, this is the first time we're going to see the Pan Am Games live in the Caribbean for the duration of the games. And that's a big thing. But we're definitely working towards getting as many sporting properties as possible, and then working with different broadcast partners to try to fill that void at the highest level of professionalism that we can.
The same thing you're seeing on ESPN is not the same thing you're going to be seeing on Flow, right? Just to be clear.
Okay. And Peter, I want you to remember this. There are 12 streams. ESPN is one.
Right.
So that on Flow, you will have 12 channels. ESPN is one. So you have all the others. So if you want to watch football, rugby, golf, all of those things would happen at the same time.
No, what I'm trying to say is,
yeah,
there's going to be the big 100-meter race, right?
That's right.
That is going to be, is it going to be, you said that we hired, for want of a better term, you hired ESPN.
Yeah.
Well, I'm asking, is the same thing when that 100-meter race is going on, is that the same thing we're going to see, or is it going to be the Caribbean perspective that you talked about?
No. And this is where I want you all to get accustomed to the fact that the ESPN feed is the Caribbean perspective. So that, and this is a very important point because it allows me to make a specific point. Because in our marketing, we have used something called a roadblock approach. When the 100 meters is running, every single licensee and sub-licensee from Bermuda to Suriname will show the same thing at the same time. So every television station will show that 100-meter race. And within that, what is powerful for the sponsors is within that is embedded the advertising for that period of time. So that they cover the entire span by going to the source and not having to place those advertisements in every single territory. And that's the power of what we're doing. So that wherever you are in Trinidad, regardless of what you're doing, regardless if you switch your channel, your television, A, B, C, D, E, there's one thing you're going to see.
Thank you.
Just now, Larry. So, and just to go a little further on what Peter is saying, the North American feeds that we would have grown accustomed to, whether that exists or not, the ESPN feed is the Caribbean feed. Underline that for me, yeah?
Yes, yeah. That is the gist. The ESPN feed is the Caribbean. It would be the feed. Remember, all feeds for the Olympic Games are generated in one place. What you do is when you get the feed, you just add the bits and pieces of analysis, evaluation, commentary if you want, but the commentary is available in English. You'll find most people, for instance, the BBC doesn't commentate the race. They allow the generic feed to run, and after the race, they would do an analysis before and an analysis after. That's exactly what we would do. We would have a studio overlooking Copacabana, and in that studio would have specific personalities that are equipped to analyze what's going to happen and what has already happened. So that when the race is finished and we finish talk to the athletes, and these guys in Bahamas win the 4x4, and we have to stand up and talk to all of them, and they each give their perspective, and then somebody in the studio is going to say, well, you see this young man, I've been watching him, remember I told you this all the time. That's the type of thing that's going to be taking place when we do this broadcast.
Thanks to all who have joined us online on Flow TV and for all who have attended here today. Thank you for your time. This announcement, as we have all seen, represents big opportunities and a leap forward in terms of how we view the Olympic Games from here on now. We want to thank all the speakers, to CANOC, CBI, and CWC. Thanks, of course, to the Honorable Minister, Brent Sancho, for stopping by and dropping in and having your presence here, sir. Cleopatra Burrell, Brian Lewis, and to all other athletes who attended, came from far and wide and attended here with us today.